Welcome to This Explainer. We're jumping right into one of the most beloved stories out there, Paulo Coelho's The Alchemist. But we aren't just going to do a basic plot recap. Instead, we're zeroing in on a really specific, really beautiful angle, how the natural world acts as the ultimate guide, the teacher, and the mirror for Santiago. Because when you really look at this story of personal discovery, nature is literally the map that shows us the way.
So I want to start by throwing this out to you. Have you ever felt like the world was trying to tell you something? I mean, maybe it was just a sudden gust of wind, a really weirdly timed encounter with an animal, or just a quiet moment looking up at the night sky that brought you, well, sudden clarity. In our fast-paced modern lives, it is so easy to just tune all of that out. But in The Alchemist, paying attention to the natural world, that is the absolute key to unlocking destiny. Let's see how Santiago actually learns to listen.
Part 1. The Shepherd and the Sycamore. Let's ground ourselves right where Santiago's story begins, and ends actually. Notice this incredible contrast right from the opening pages. Santiago takes shelter in an abandoned church. The roof is completely caved in, and right through the very spot where the sacristy once stood, there's this massive sycamore tree growing. According to academic analyses, that ruined church represents man-made constructs, things that ultimately collapse and decay. But the tree? That represents the wild, unstoppable freedom of the spirit. It's nature literally breaking through human boundaries, showing us right from the jump that true spiritual freedom just cannot be contained by four walls.
And before he even leaves his homeland, Santiago's very first teachers are his sheep. Just by observing his flock day in and day out, he picks up this foundational lesson. He realizes there's this language of the world that everyone understands. It's a language of enthusiasm, of things done with love and purpose. It doesn't need words. The natural, steady rhythm of your sheep teaches him that if you just observe simple, daily life, you can tap into a universal language that's understood completely by the heart.
To really grasp how this transforms him, we have to trace his physical expansion across the globe. He starts in the familiar, rolling green hills of Andalusia, then spends months crossing the unimaginably vast Sahara Desert to finally reach the majestic pyramids of Egypt. As his physical environment gets bigger and way more dangerous, his spiritual understanding is literally forced to expand right along with it.
Part 2. The Desert's Capricious Wisdom.
Which brings us to the harshest, most demanding mentor in the entire novel. The text says it perfectly. The desert tests all men. It challenges every step and kills those who become distracted. The desert isn't just some passive backdrop of sand, right? It's described almost like a living, breathing being. A capricious lady. It demands your absolute presence. If you lose focus out there, it can literally mean the end of your life. Nature here forces Santiago to step up, demanding his complete and utter courage.
And what's really fascinating is how academic reviews like this analysis from the Criterion emphasize this exact point. The sheer harshness of the desert is perfectly designed to break down the human ego. When your ego is finally stripped away by the magnitude of the natural world, it leaves a void, and the desert then becomes this spiritual inspirer, filling that newly opened space in the heart with true vision. But of course, it only spares the courageous.
But here's the catch. Nature's teachings aren't only found in those massive, sweeping, cinematic dunes. The Alchemist teaches Santiago that he doesn't even need to understand the vastness of the desert to find wisdom. All he actually has to do is contemplate a single grain of sand. By learning to look closely at the smallest possible fragment of the natural world, you can penetrate the soul of the world. It's this beautiful reminder that the infinite, complex blueprint of creation is hidden right there in the microscopic if we just take a second to look.
Part 3. Reading the World's Omens.
So nature doesn't just passively challenge us, it actively speaks to us. Think about the major omens that give Santiago a structural guide for his path. It translates these lofty spiritual themes into totally actionable steps. For instance, he watches two hawks flying over the oasis. Now this isn't just bird watching, it's a sudden, violent vision of an upcoming attack. And because he listens to that natural omen, he literally saves the entire oasis. Later on, a scarab beetle, which is a highly sacred symbol in Egypt, appears in the sand near the pyramids. That isn't a coincidence. It signals the exact physical location where he needs to start digging.
As Santiago tells us, I wanted to follow the omens because I knew even then that the omens are the language of God. Just pause and really consider how profound that is. In the context of this journey, observing nature is not merely a survival skill. You are literally interpreting the language of the divine. The universe is in this constant, ongoing dialogue with us through the plants, the animals, and the elements all around us.
Part 4.
Becoming the Wind.
This dialogue culminates in the absolute climax of the book, where his life is literally on the line. He's trapped by a hostile army and given 3 days to turn himself into the wind. But, and readers love pointing this out, there's no magical training montage here. He doesn't crack open a spellbook. Instead, he engages in this breathtaking chain of reverence. First, he speaks to the desert, then he looks to the wind defers to the sun, and the sun defers to the hand of God. The realization here is just stunning. He doesn't force nature to do his bidding. He realizes he is already one with it all. To the tribesmen watching, it's a miracle, a guy becoming a sandstorm. But internally, it's this deep, meditative realization that humans and the forces of nature share the exact same soul.
This is the magical moment that proves the absolute most famous line of the novel. When you want something, all the universe conspires to help you achieve it. But notice, the universe doesn't conspire for you if you're fighting against it. It supports your journey only when you fully align with its natural flow.
And this leads to a pretty interesting point about spiritual tools. Early on, Santiago gets these 2 stones, Urim and Thummim, to help him read omens. But at a really critical moment, they fall through a hole in his pouch, right onto the ground. That visual of the lost stones is a reminder that even external spiritual tools eventually fall away. True alchemy isn't about relying on magic rocks, right? It's an internal awakening that mirrors the natural forces around you. You eventually have to make your own decisions based on what your heart and the world are whispering to you.
Part 5. The treasure was always there.
Finally, his physical journey hits its destination. He makes it to the majestic pyramids, beautifully lit by the desert moon. But, in a massive twist, after getting beaten and robbed, one of the thieves reveals a dream about treasure buried in a ruined church in Spain. Santiago realizes the truth immediately. He journeys all the way back to Andalusia. The literal gold was buried beneath the roots of the very sycamore tree where he started his journey, where he had his very first dream.
I was living my own metaphor, he reflects. Nature teaches us that our deepest truths, our greatest treasures, are already within us. They are rooted in our origins. But if that's true, you might be asking, why even make the journey at all? Because as the story Brilliant shows us, we have to travel the world, face the punishing desert, and learn the language of the elements in order to earn the eyes to actually see the treasure that was always sitting right beneath our feet.
And that right there is the essence of a personal legend. It's your unique destiny. It's the path to true happiness. But to actually realize your personal legend, just like Santiago did, you can't just sit comfortably at home. You have to step out into the world. You have to let nature strip away your fears, test your resolve, and teach its language. The soul of the world is just waiting to collaborate with you.
So, as we wrap up this explainer, I really want to bring this back to you. The natural world guided Santiago to his ultimate truth. So, look outside. Listen to the elements around you right now. What is the wind asking you to become? I'm going to leave you with that deeply personal question to carry forward on your own magnificent journey. Keep listening, keep exploring, and hey, thanks so much for joining me.